How's everyone doing today? Hi. Okay.
Better?
Great. So I just want to say it's such an honor to be here today because actually we learn from the farm worker movement every day. And we can never forget that we stand on the shoulder of giants. And I want to start by giving a quick shout out to my baby daughter, Stella, and Maria Reyes, who's here with us today. And Maria Reyes is a tireless crusader for immigrant and domestic worker rights. And you'll see her in a lot of the images, the beautiful photos by movement photographer David Bacon. So I want to talk a little bit about a story of a woman that I know. Her name's Mayra. And Mayra came to this country to support her family. And she began working as a live-in nanny for a middle-class family. And every morning, Mayra would wake up, she would fix breakfast, she would play with the kids, she would clean up after the kids, she would do laundry, house cleaning, and at night, after putting the children to sleep, every night she would sleep on the floor of the children's room. And her employer said that this was so that if the kids woke up in the middle of the night, it would be easier for her to take care of them. And she would be there first thing in the morning when they woke up. And after about a year of poor treatment and verbal abuse and extremely low wages, Mayra decided that she had to leave this job, but said that it was really difficult to leave in spite of all of that because she really loved the children. Mayra came to Mujeres Unidas y Activas a little while after that, and she now has 2 children of her own, and that's her, that's Mayra. She took our community leadership training and became really involved in the community. And Mayra one day called the police to report domestic violence, her husband, and her husband was deported shortly after. And after a short while, Mayra realized that she was having a really difficult time raising her own children and taking care of her family on her low wages that she was earning as a house cleaner. And so Mayra left to go back to Mexico. And Maria actually went to visit her last month and said that it's really tough and that she's thinking about coming back. And I share Mayra's story because not every domestic worker story is Mayra's story. But every domestic worker is just as vulnerable. These workers, farm workers, childcare providers, caregivers, house cleaners, they do some of the most essential human work, taking care of us and our basic needs. But their work is totally undervalued by our society. And this devalorization is institutionalized by our government. In the 1930s, the National Labor Relations Act, the height of the labor movement, domestic workers and farm workers were explicitly excluded from those protections. It wasn't until the 1970s that African American domestic workers, I have to say, they were excluded to appease Southern segregationists who were really afraid of African American organizing. And it wasn't until the 1970s that African American domestic workers organized and won the right for a minimum wage. But today, domestic workers still lack many of the basic protections that many of us take for granted. But domestic workers are winning. They're building a movement. At this moment, dozens of domestic workers come together every week at Mujeres Unidas' offices in Oakland and in San Francisco to support one another, to figure out how to build people power to change all the abuses that they face in their daily lives. We actually formed a national domestic worker alliance, and we have 30 member organizations across the country who are organizing domestic workers. And like I said, I think we're making really historic gains in this moment. It's really exciting. Last year, the Domestic Worker Bill of Rights was passed in New York by Domestic Workers United. First time domestic workers got some really basic protections in the state of New York. So I think we should celebrate that. I think that's a really big win. This year, domestic workers won a global standards for domestic work at the global level. For the first time ever, an International Labor Organization convention on domestic work. So that's also a really huge win, so we should give it up for them as well. And next year, we will win a domestic worker Bill of Rights here in California. This will include basic protections like overtime for domestic workers, the right to workers' compensation if you're hurt on the job, the right to sleep 8 hours, so that workers like Mayra never have to sleep on the floor again. ¿Se puede? Sí, se puede. I hear Maria. So in closing, I just want to say, I do this work to honor, I'm so proud to be a part of this campaign and this historic work, and I do it to honor my grandmother and my aunties who came to this country and did this work for many years, and out of respect for the women and deep appreciation for the women who helped raise my brother, sister, and I when my mom had to go to work every day, and for the women who are going to help me raise my own daughters. And we can't do it alone. We need the support of each and every one of you. We need good employers to stand up and say, we need labor protections, and that helps all of us. We need people who were raised by domestic workers and students to come together and say, enough is enough. We need labor protections for workers yesterday. And so I hope all of you will join me in giving domestic workers their due rights, dignity, and respect. Thank you.